Morning, ladies, and if there's any gents watching, gents too. Friday morning here in Johannesburg. We've got spring is definitely just looking out the window of my studio, and spring definitely seems to be on the way. Thank goodness, because we've had 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, that were not pleasant. Just a reminder that we shouldn't take our shorts and t-shirts out just yet. Okay, so today we will be doing a block called the Trellis block. It is available, or the pattern is in Eleanor Burns' Quilt in a Day book. It's on page 112. It's quite a nice block to use. I have changed things a little bit on the block. You may have seen in the picture to promote the class today, or to promote the show today, that my colors are a little bit different to what is present in the book. But without any more haste or ado, let's get going. So we're going to be working with 3 dies today. You'll be working with die number 2, which is your square 3.5 inch square finished. And then we will be working with die number 5, popular die, which is your half square triangles, also 3 inch finished. And then we'll be working with the parallelogram. There we go. Just so that you may notice on the die, I've got a bit of an indent here. This is what happens when you place another die up against the foam of your dies. It can leave a bit of a mark. It hasn't affected the operating how the die works, but it has definitely left a mark. So always remember to store your dies vertically, and your strip cutters should be stored horizontally. All right, let's go. So I do have a parallelogram up on the design wall here. So we will only be cutting 3. We need 4. So I did cheat a bit. I had one already cut from a previous show. If you remember correctly, I cut one and it was the wrong way, and I had to recut it. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to make sure that I am cutting in the correct. And even now I'm just looking, and it seems that we could actually use this on the side, I think. I'm just trying to see. No, you see, I even look at that, and so this is probably not going to work. Let's see if I can get 4 out of this piece, and then I must remember that they need to be the other way. So we are going to want to cut like this. That's 1, 2, 3. Hopefully. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get this done with this particular. No, we're not. I just don't have enough. Okay, so I haven't planned the block to face the opposite direction, so we'll have to use that for something else. What I'm going to do then, I've got another piece of red, which I think I should have enough of to be able to then do the 4 pieces, the 4 parallelograms. I'm just going to give it a quick press, because I wasn't planning. I was planning on using a piece of this for the other triangles. So welcome to the 40-minute challenge. Basically what we are doing is seeing if we can cut and piece a block in 40 minutes. Okay. So we are in luck. The strip will work quite nicely. What I'm going to do, however, is I'm not going to concertina my fabric, simply because I want to ensure that we have the same cut, or the shape faces the same way throughout our design or throughout our block. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is place this piece of fabric on top. Just make sure that we are not. All right, there we go. So we're going to cut 4 in 1 scoop. And there we have them all done. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there they are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to just check, I want to make sure that when I lay them out on the design board, they are all facing the right way. Okay, so let's see what we've got there. So we've got the 4 parallelograms up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the 4. I just want to check my list. I've made a list of the things that we need to cut today because this is also quite a complex. So we've done 4 red parallelograms, number 7, and that's the parallelogram now done. So your Accuquilt cube comes in a number of different sizes. You're looking at a 12-inch, a 10-inch, a 12-inch, a 10-inch, a 9-inch, an 8-inch, and a 6-inch. And what that in effect means is that your block once cut and pieced will be 10, 12, 10, 9, 8, etc. We're working with a 12-inch kit or the 12-inch cube. Really, I've had some of my regulars ask me, which one do we choose? Which one do we take? If we want to buy one, which one? It's very difficult to say. I have been looking on the internet and trying to sort of ascertain which one could possibly work. And, you know, you just have to think to yourself, what size block do you want to work with with your quilts? A 10-inch is a good one to work with. It's not too big, it's not too small. So let's see, we need 4 by red triangles. So all I really need to do with this is just fold the fabric in half. However, what I am going to do is just try to conserve as much fabric as I can. And it doesn't seem like that's going to work that way, so we will do it like this. Alrighty, there we go. And I didn't bring in I've just realized now, I didn't bring a new mat. On Wednesday we had some issues with the cutting mat. It was starting to perish. And just to give you an idea, when your cutting mats start to look like this, it's time to say goodbye. And I'll show you why in a minute. They don't cut well. You saw we just used the larger cutting mat for the die, the number 5 die, and it cut perfectly. You can see we're very happy with it. But I'm going to use this cutting mat now and cut some fabric, and you'll see how it comes out. It's quite a difficult one. Okay, so this is, I think we're going to work actually from the center block. It's going to be a bit easier to piece. And we need a red. So alrighty. So that we've done our 4 red triangles. Now I'm going to cut 2 green triangles. And what we will do with this one is we will use that cutting mat, which is pretty is nearly done, and you'll see the difference in the cut, and you'll understand why you need to replace your cutting mats as soon as they start to give you issues. Unfortunately, that is the one thing, that is how the system works, is with the cutting mats. That is what ensures you get a clean cut. It's not the blade. The blades are obviously there on the dies, but the blades don't get blunt. What actually happens is the cutting mats perish. So I'm only going to do 2 here because I know this is going to be a problem. It's going to give me issues. I just know. But let's see what it comes out with. Okay, so the first one was cut nicely. The second one, the second 2, you can see, oh, it's actually not done too badly. It's caught a bit over here. But on Wednesday, we had some really hectic pieces coming out. They weren't cut straight. They will go nicely with our maroon triangles from the other day. We can put them together in a bit of a... Okay, so 2 green triangles cut and up. Then we still need the green fabric for something else. Just now we're going to cut some yellow triangles, and the yellow again, just 2. Let's have a look where our fabric is. Here we go. Ideally, you want to try and cut little pieces of fabric to run through the machine. However, if you do decide to cut like I'm doing now, whereby you are placing a large piece of fabric that's going to ultimately go through, I'm going to use the perished mat again because we got a good cut out of there, well, a half decent cut, and I will use it till it's literally falling to pieces. So when you roll your fabric through the machine, just be careful not to crease it, because it will make really bad creases in your fabric. Okay, so here we've got a really good example of what happens with the cutting mat when the cutting mat is not perfect. We've got to come in here and actually cut out the pieces. And what can also happen, I'm glad it did this just so that I could show you, is it can distort your pieces of fabric, which is something that I actually realized, no wonder I can't see what I'm doing, which is something that I realized on Wednesday when we were working, was that if you do not have a cutting mat, if the cutting mat is damaged, I can tell you now that your pieces are not going to cut accurately. There's going to be issues, and they are not going to be the right size and the right shape. It pulls on the fabric, and it just creates issues. So I'm glad we've seen that. You can get a bit of an idea as to what happens. Okay, there we have our 2 yellow triangles sorted. So we've done red, green, and I've got a little plan here that I'm trying to go towards. Okay, so now what we are going to do, let's get our next die up, which is the 3.5-inch square. I need to cut 2 green and 2 yellow. Okay. And I try to fold my fabric so that I can use as little as possible. Really, that's where all the measuring and I don't want to waste my fabric. And that is one of the, I wouldn't say the downsides, but definitely with the Accuquilt and the dyes, you have to be cautious and you have to be conscious of how you are laying your fabric out. Otherwise, you can waste quite a bit of fabric. But what I do with the little pieces, these little scrap pieces, is I've got a container. There we go. You saw, cuts perfectly. Okay, so we're done with the green for today. So you can see these little pieces that I've got in between. I save them. In some instances, you can use them for small applique pieces, or you can use them in a confetti quilt, which I find is quite fun. And I know it is a confetti quilt. I went and actually looked to check. Okay, so again, we're going to check. We're going to make sure that we fold our fabric as close to the cutting line as possible without having a situation. And this is where the problem comes in if you're using a mat that's perished, is that the mat will lift the fabric. So as you roll through the rollers, or as you go through the rollers, the fabric will actually lift, and it will get caught up in the cracks on the mat, and it will lift, and that will then cause your fabric to not to hold on a minute, not to cut very nicely. Okay, this is giving me a bit of problems because I've got this drag on the bottom here. Again, as I say, ideally you want to cut small little strips of fabric that you can then lay out on your machine. I am being a little bit not doing things quite the right way, and you can then see the problems that come up. And all of these little things that pull the fabric actually do have an effect on the shape that comes out the other side. Okay, there we go. I'm pretty comfortable with that now. Because I'm using a bigger cutting mat as well, I'm trying my damnedest to make sure that this is going through. Okay, we still got a little bit of a catch there, and it's because the big cutting mat's starting to perish. You can see over here. So you need to always be rotating your cutting mats. Swap them over. Do whatever you need to do with them. All right. So we've now done the 2 green and the 2 yellow, 8 purple. So we need 8 of these little purple guys, and that's so 2, and we can actually cut 8 in one go. There we have it. 8 will be cut. Again, I'm going to use the bigger cutting mat. What I'm going to try and do is to just use a different area, not the area that we seem to be constantly running over now. So you can use bigger cutting mats. It's just you really have to hold the fabric in place. And there we go. All of them are done. So we've cut the block in 18 minutes, 19 minutes, even with my faffing. And here we go again. That's how it should be. Yep, it is, and the top one should be the same. So, which means the bottom. Okay, so maybe if we have a look at that other set of spurs. Yes, there we go. So what I'm now going to do is I'm actually going to cut one of the parallelograms in some of this fabric. So we should have done one up, one down. That's what happens when you don't check. And we can fit one in there, which is great. Okay, so there we have it. Okay, and then we're going to pop our purple pieces in. Always good to lay out your design, your block before you piece so that you can see where and how and what you are doing. Alrighty, there we go. So there's the block up. We've cut it. It's taken us 20 minutes, let's say. And that's also a little bit of fussing around and messing around that's gone on with it. Okay, so now to start actually stitching. So according to the block, they say making up the 4 parallelograms. They want to work with the 4 parallelograms and putting the triangles on. So let's do that and do some chain piecing. Oopsie, I've lost my glasses. Let me just pick them up. Excuse me. Otherwise, we will not be doing anything. Okay, have I got them all? Yes. So what we are going to do here, we are going to okay. Fold your triangles in half. Get a line in the middle. There you go. Fold the parallelogram in half along the longest end so that you've got a center. Right sides together. You want to place Makes it a bit better. Okay, so don't fold the parallelogram in half. Basically place your piece up against the top of the parallelogram. And I also think I have actually started, I'm not using my my quilt in a day sheet. I took it off yesterday. I had to just do some adjusting, so I'm just putting it back on again. and some cleaning, because the machine was sounding really, really shocking. Alrighty, let's see what we've got going. There we go, there we go. I just got the feeling that this wasn't quite where it was supposed to be, and I was very right. It's slightly off. So I was doing a scant quarter, and it's actually a full quarter-inch seam. Let's see what we've got there. Okay. So that's what it's going to look like. And then we'll do the other side. Right sides together. Okay, so you're basically going to be making 4 sets of those. So let's get to it. I'm going to do some chain piecing. Which just helps speed things up a bit. Let's hope. Okay. We'll flip them onto the other side and put the other corner piece on. Okay, just checking I've still got all my pieces together. What's really nice about the Accuquilt system is you just lay these triangles up next to each other and they all work out perfectly. It's what it's all about: precision cutting, precision piecing, precision squares or blocks. Okay, this was one of our other way around things. I'm actually what I'm going to do is just to help myself here, I'm going to place a pin just to keep it in place. You don't need to always do this, but I'm just finding it a little bit, it just is a bit easier. So the Accuquilt comes in a number of different sizes. You can get the Go Me, which is the baby. It takes up to 6-inch dies. You then have the Accuquilt Go, which is the product that I'm using, or the machine I'm using. And then there's the Studio Cutter. So the difference really being is the Accuquilt Go, as I say, has limitations with the size dies that you can put through it. And the Studio Cutter is for commercial use. It cuts up to 15 layers of fabric at a time. So it's really great for shops if you're cutting kits and that sort of thing, then that is definitely something that you could consider using. For home use, I would, if your budget can extend to it, I would recommend that the Accuquilt Go, the one that I've got here in my studio, it's just there's a lot more dies that you can use. In fact, pretty much all the dies you can then use through this machine. What's also nice is that with the strip cutters, you can cut more strips. I know that particularly with the 2.5-inch, they make a strip cutter, a 2.5-inch strip cutter for the baby, and then they make one for the Go. And the baby can only cut 2 strips at a time, whereas the Go can cut 3 strips at a time. So it's just little things like that. Most of the dies can be cut on both machines, or most of the shapes you just would have to buy different dies to ensure that they can go through your machine. So with the Go Baby, this size die will be able to fit through it, and smaller, nothing bigger than that. So as I say, it can be a bit limiting. It just depends on you as a person, what do you want to do with the machine, where do you want to go, what do you want to cut. Okay, remember to cut off all your excess threads. We don't want them getting caught up as we move through the completion of this block. And then this one had quite a few because we had that little. Oh, excuse me, the phone's ringing. I'm just going to turn it off. I should have done that myself. Okay. Go. And I am, it says to me, we should be ironing towards the outside, which is what we've done. Okay, perfect. Just checking, because then you will find that your seams lay flat and neat, and they nest quite nicely. Is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Yes. All right. As you can see, once you start actually ironing the things and placing things together, you can see that the block starts to come together quite nicely. That's why it's so important to have a design board. What I've done with this board here is I've gone to my local fabric shop and I've bought flannel, and I basically pinned it to another quilt which I had hanging in my studio. So you can easily pin it to curtains, to the wall if need be, but wherever, and it's portable. You can take it wherever you want to, take it down. It's not heavy. It really works well. And what I've used is an off grey. You don't want to use white. It's a bit stark and it's a bit hectic on your eye. You want to use something that is a little bit off color. So maybe a beige or a cream or a light grey, as I say. But that's really, oh, we were supposed to be doing chain piecing here. Yeah, I'm just pulling things off. Okay. So Accuquilt USA, I've got a launch party happening. I think it's the 21st of September. You'd actually just have to go and check on their site. They've got some new dyes that are coming out, new ideas, some patterns. I think it's going to be quite nice. And obviously what's really great is now, and I shouldn't say with COVID because it hasn't really been fantastic, but because of COVID, things are now more virtual. So us here in the southern tip of Africa are actually able to partake in a lot of these activities which we wouldn't have been able to do before. Alrighty, so we've done that. Cut off our excess threads again. And then we are going to, so according to this, it's saying make up, lay our pieces sew together, lock, okay, turn seam, remaining seam with top seam up and underneath seam down, okay. I am not quite following there, but basically what we are going to do is we are going to iron or press towards the darker color. Can you see me over there on the camera? Okay. I should be pressing and not ironing. I can see I'm in a bit of a rush. Okay, so there we have our 4 center blocks. Okay. Oopsie, no, sorry. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take these two and we're going to poke them onto there. And just always remember to check that you are stitching the correct line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make sure, okay, and this is going to be working So you see, this is why we need to always, yep, and that one's going to go there, that one's going to go there. So we need to be doing that seam. And what I like to do is I will pin the two seams together that I know when I come back to them just now, that's the seams that I need to pin, that I need to actually stitch, because we're going to do a bit of chain piecing, and we just want to remember where we are in the process. Try and make sure that your blocks are squared up on each other. It's just going to ensure that they sit better when they are in the final product, or in the final block. See, we're over 40 minutes, but I anticipated that the more complicated blocks would take a little bit longer, particularly if there's not really, and this is what I'm trying to tell you in a moment, this is what I'm trying to show with the machine is that it's fast. You know, you can cut, your cutting time is reduced. You still need to plan though. If you don't plan, you're still going to have to do that. And if you don't plan, there's also going to be a pretty good chance that you might just bugger up. Okay, so that is that. That is that. All right, so we're just going to lay it out. We're quickly going to give it an iron. Okay, so to attach the centers, we need to match up the centers, nesting the seams quite nicely. We want to make sure that they're close so that there's no gap in between the colors. Okay. What's going on here? Just okay. You can use our height adjustment tool if you wish to ensure that it keeps the seams flat. Take it as close as you can before the seams start to fold in on themselves. And then we just pop it so it holds the fabric down first of all, which is pretty cool. And then it's going to guide your stitching over the right place. Once you've done that, you can remove the pin and off you go. Let's see if it's worked out for us. Generally does. Yeah, it's all do. But there you go. There's your simple square. So I'm going to quickly fold this and give it an iron. So I'm going to quickly give it a press just to get that finish off really nicely. So our next step is to take these 3 pieces and attach it. So it's going to be that there, and we can do some chain piecing, that there, and that there. So let's start off with this. I think this is going to be a fairly simple one to get done. Okay, let's start. We will have to stretch this piece in. I can see that when I sewed the purple onto the red, it was a bit short. It caused a little bit of the fabric to gather up, and so now I'm going to have to stretch these 2 pieces together. But it's working. There we go. So let's just do that for now. We know it's there, it's done. Okay. Now we should mark. Let me just get a marking pen. And my 1/4 inch ruler, I see I have not got anything close by. Hold on a moment. So let's just use this long ruler here. We just want to mark our seams at 1/4 inch so that we know where it needs to cross over the stitching line. So that's basically what I've done. And I'm going to mark it on the same here. And on the other side. Okay. Okay. So I've noticed that some of my fabric has stretched a little, particularly on the yellow squares. They weren't cut. So what's happened is there's a bit of a bowing effect that you can see. So you're just going to have to take, if this sort of thing does happen, you need to take that into consideration when piecing or when pinning your pieces, so that you can just ensure that they fold nicely and that they are, and then when you stitch, you know where you're supposed to stitch. Alrighty, let's see how this works out. I could use the high compensation tool here. I think I might, just simply because there's a lot of bulk going on here. Okay. There we go. There's the first piece on. Okay, there we go, and we are going to just see how this fits in. Check. Okay. And we are through. Okay, so there we have this middle section of the block is done. And that's actually turned out really nicely. If you have a look at that join, I'm quite impressed. We've got quite close. I just want to see which way they say to pat to. Okay, I'm going to just press towards the outside. And remember to cut off the excess threads. Nearly done, nearly done. Okay, so we're going to quickly do this, and then we've got 2 more seams to do, and then we're pretty much done. Ooh. Whoopsie, why you should not be running over your pins. Now we know why. Okay, See what happens when you're in a rush and you want to try and make things go quick. Okay, so there we go. That's that piece in. Let's check. Now what I'm doing is just checking to see which side I'm going to press my seams on the outside pieces, and I'm going to press them towards the center. That way they will nest nicely with the seams from the center panel, and hopefully we'll get a nice clean fit. Again, I would suggest that you mark your 1/4 inch seam. This is really just going to assist you at a later stage. I just want to check again that I'm in the right place. Yeah, see. Okay. Okay. Cut excess seams, excess thread, so we don't get that caught up into any of our stitching. I start by measuring the center first and getting that right, and then I will work my way out to the edges of the block. Phone again. Scotty, sorry, bud. I'm in a show. I'll phone you in a minute. Okay, so you're going to pin both sides on, and that's basically what you're going to have left over. And there we have it. We're sitting on just on an hour, so what I'm going to do, we're going to finish off now. I want to try and keep these things to a minimum. They're only supposed to be 40 minutes. I will show you this block completed on Monday morning. You can have a look. You can see up at the top we've got the flower basket, which we did on Wednesday. But I will show this block to you completed, and we can then carry on from there. Thank you so much for following us today. As I say, I don't like to keep you too long, and we're already running on an hour. So I'm going to end the video now, and we'll see you again on Monday. Have a good weekend.